Hey there, this is Scott Nicol from Ibis Cycles coming at you from Santa Cruz, California. I'm standing here with Colin Hughes, our engineer, and we are going to go through features of the Ripley, which we recently introduced, and tell you about the philosophy behind the bike and what it's going to do for you out there on the trail. Probably the most unique feature of the Ripley is the dual eccentric DW link that provides the suspension action for the bike. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how that whole eccentric works, and I'm going to let Colin talk about that.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the new twin eccentric DW link that we have in the Ripley. Basically, it takes two links like this and replaces it with two links like this. And it's simpler, it's lighter, it hides everything in the frame, which is nice, protecting it from the elements. But it also did a couple other things for us, which really helped us out with the 29er. One of the things about the 29er is a lot of people actually need a real granny gear. 22 or 24 down there, and that meant the chain was running really close to the bottom of the chainstay on a drop chainstay bike like our other bikes. In order to get away from that, we went to a swing arm mounted front derailleur, which was made possible by the tight rotation of the twin eccentrics right here. The derailleur doesn't move very far, so we got to mount the swing arm, or the derailleur on the swing arm. And that allowed us to not drop the chainstay because it's not coming up and hitting the derailleur anymore. It's moving with it, which means you get to have a nice straight chainstay, and you get to have a nice efficient design, and that leads you all to short chainstays. Another really nice thing about the eccentric links is that we got to have two uprights, one on the right side also, which made for a very stiff, efficient swing arm. So this bike is stiffer than an SLR at the same weight in 29er size.
A lot of people have asked about the durability of the eccentric linkages and how long they'll last. So people have noticed that the Ripley was announced quite a while ago and took a little bit of time to come to market. And part of the reason for that was because we've been doing some pretty extensive testing. We've had people out there racing the bikes for the last couple of years, and well, I guess a year and a half.
Year and a half.
And thrashing them and riding them in the mud and trying to see what was not working. And so originally, a lot of you will remember the Ripley eccentrics were done with bushings, and we found out that those had some problems with sealing. And so what we did is we changed to a really sturdy bearing, these Max bearings that are from Enduro.
Yeah.
And they're full complement, I guess.
Yeah, full complement bearings, and they also have a full grease seal. So
by full complement, that means there's no retainer in them, it's just solid balls. And they're completely packed with grease, and then they also have a much firmer seal on them than most bearings that you get. Most of the bearings you buy are made for bottom brackets or for hubs, and so they need to spin more freely. With the suspension bearing, it only moves a little bit. So sealing is more important than actually the
rotation freedom.
Yeah, the freedom of rotation. So anyway, we use these bearings, which are also, this one doesn't have it, but it's a black oxide coating, which also resists corrosion. So there's a number of nice differences about the bearings that are going to increase the longevity of the entire system. And as Colin mentioned earlier, they're also sealed. This is a sealed system, and it's inside the eccentrics are located inside the seat tube, further getting them away from all of the nasty grit that you're likely to see down there.
When we were first doing the suspension kinematics with Dave, 2x10 systems had just come out. We were riding around on them, liking them, but we figured out that all the gearing combinations were too big for a 29er. They were all cross-country race combinations. And so we predicted that in a few years when this actually came out, everyone would be using smaller chain rings. And so we figured out that a big chain ring, 33, 34 would probably be about right. Nobody really needs a 42 on a 29er. So the bike comes with the 34, 24 2x crank, and the 34 is a great gear 85% of the time. You can stand up. It's got a lot of anti-squat so that when you stand in that big ring, it's not going to move at all. You can get tons of power, super snappy acceleration. But when you hit a climb on hour 4 of your ride, you actually have a granny gear there and bail out, and it's going to perform well too.
When we first designed the front end geometry of the Ripley, we only had 45 millimeter offset forks available to us. And during the time that the Ripley was in development, a 51 millimeter offset became available to us. And that is significant because of a number that we call trail on the front end of the bike. Trail is a measurement that we can show you in a graphic on the screen. And it's not offset and it's not head angle, but it's more important than either of those two. Trail is the horizontal distance on the ground between the contact patch of the tire and where a straight line through the steering tube hits the ground. Back in the day when we were building road bikes of all different head angles, I'm talking about 15, 18 years ago, we would build smaller road bikes with a slacker head angle, and that would give us more toe clip clearance, and then we would steepen up the head angle of the bigger bikes, which also kept the wheelbase more compact for those as the top tubes got longer. But anyway, we had a different rake on every single fork with every single corresponding head angle. And that was because we wanted to keep the trail measurement exactly the same. So trail is really the holy grail of front end handling. And when the 51 millimeter offset became available to us, that meant that we could kick the head angle back and make it slacker, but the offset decreased the trail measurement and made it right where we want it to be, which is exactly the same as what our Mojo SLR is. Happens to be 80 millimeters on this bike. And so it accomplished a couple of great things. It got the head angle more slack, which everybody likes, and it also lengthened the front end a little bit for added stability, and gave us that snappy steering that we're looking for to make it behave more like a 26-inch bike, which we all love riding. The Ripley has internal cable routing for the derailleurs that go through the top tube and then exits out above the shock. You can see right here. And we provide routing for a dropper post. And if you don't run a front derailleur, which I think is becoming increasingly popular, you can run the dropper through the frame as well. One of the neat things about the kinematics of the Ripley is that it's designed for a 32 to 34 tooth ring, and that works perfectly with the new XX1 drivetrains. So the Ripley would be a great candidate for no front derailleur and an XX1 kit on it, which also would build up around 23 pounds, pretty light. The DW Link suspension on the Ripley is 120 millimeters of travel, and the stock fork that comes with the Ripley is also 120 mils of travel, but we designed it to also work really well at 140 mil. So you can either get the Ripley with the stock 32 stanchion Fox float, once again with 51 millimeters of offset, or you can order it with a 140 millimeter, 34 millimeter stanchion Fox float that'll give you a little bit more of a trail bike, towards the trail bike, whereas the 120 might be a little bit more considered towards the XC side of things. So as with all of our bikes, we try to make it as versatile as we possibly can.